It felt like it was just yesterday when Ja Morant was chanting Grizzlies in 7 and was talking all that trash to Steph Curry in the playoffs. It felt like it was just yesterday when Ja Morant was saying he wanted the Warriors on Christmas Day and was going back and forth with Draymond Green on Twitter. And yet, here we are today, with Morant facing possibly one of the biggest suspensions in NBA history. Then, to make things worse, here's a clip of what Stephen A. Smith had to say recently.
But I can tell you this. I'm from the streets of New York City, and a lot of players I know are from the streets, period. And I can tell you that people within the NBA community are not just concerned about Ja Morant playing basketball. They're concerned about whether or not he's going to be alive in 5 years.
Not alive in 5 years? Not alive in 5 years. Man, guys, how the heck in the world did it get to this? Things just went from bad to worse in the blink of an eye, and I truly hope the best for Ja Morant. I mean, I truly wish for him to get back to the NBA so he could get swept by the Warriors in the first round. But at the moment, forget about the hardwood floor, forget about basketball. Things don't look good at all for the once promising superstar. So, if you haven't heard yet, Ja Morant's camp recently came out and said the weapon in the Instagram Live was just a toy and that it wasn't real at all. And here's what was recently said on the topic from the Breakfast Club.
My sources say that the relative in the car in the backseat had a toy gun in the car. The gun is not real and was playing around with it, passed it over to Ja, and that got caught on the live. He had it in his hand. Now, the video was sent to Adam Silver, NBA, allegedly. They have it, and they said the gun looks extremely fake, like it's obviously a toy gun. But according to my source, allegedly, Adam Silver is still going to go through with the suspension, looking like it should be about 30 games, even though they know it is a toy gun.
So, based on this clip and the recent reports I've seen, whether or not it was a toy doesn't seem to matter to the league because of the image it presents. One question I have on this whole episode, though, is why the heck would they wait 1 full month to come out and say it was a toy? Why'd they let this get so big before coming out and saying it was quote-unquote a toy? But anyway, as for the suspension, no one really knows the true length of it yet because Adam Silver himself recently stated that they came to the conclusion that it'd be really unfair and disrespectful to the NBA Finals if the whole talking point currently was on Ja Morant, but from every source I've read and heard about regarding the issue, it's not going to be lenient. And in fact, if it was lenient, then I'm sure Adam Silver wouldn't have had a problem just announcing it right there and then, but the fact that he didn't likely means that it's going to make headlines. I mean, as of the moment, popular sports analyst Shannon Sharpe recently went on air to say that he believes the league wants to make an example of Ja Morant to dissuade any future NBA players from doing something similar, and this sentiment was also backed up by the executives around the league. Anyway, some sources online say the suspension is going to be about 30 games. Some sources say it's going to be a bit longer at 41 games. But as a repeat offender, it actually might be even longer than that. Now, what I mean by that is, we all remember who O.J. Mayo is, right? Well, in case you don't, here's a quick refresher. He was the 3rd overall pick back in 2008. He was hyped up to be the next LeBron, but in the end, he was mostly remembered for his failed trash talk against Michael Jordan. But that's another story for another day. And back to the point. In 2010, Mayo was found to have violated the league's anti-drug program and consequently was suspended 10 games. Well, in the 2016 offseason, about 6 years later, Mayo was once again found to have violated the league's anti-drug program. And guess how long his suspension was as a repeat offender? It wasn't 10 games. It wasn't 20 games. It wasn't 30 or 41 games. It was 2 years. 164 games. Sheesh. That was actually a longer suspension than Ron Artest in the Malice at the Palace incident. That was actually a longer suspension than Latrell Sprewell for attacking then Warriors head coach PJ Carlesimo, and that was actually longer than Gilbert Arenas for the 2009 incident when he carried and stored an unlicensed weapon in his locker. These are actually the longest suspensions in NBA history. And where does Ja Morant fit into this whole picture, you might ask? Well, just like OJ Mayo, he's now a repeat offender for violating one of the NBA's policies. And when Adam Silver recently went on air to discuss this topic more, he stated,
So in assessing what discipline is appropriate, if that's the case, we look at both the history of prior acts, but then we look at the individual player's history as well. And the seriousness, of course, of the conduct. So those are all things that get factored. It's not an exact science. It comes down to judgment at the end of the day on the part of me and my colleagues in the league office.
So, Silver specifically said that they'll look at the history of prior acts, but the thing is, looking at the history of Morant's acts makes things pretty darn bleak. I mean, there's that incident at the mall with the security guard, then there's that incident with the 17-year-old, then there's that incident with the Pacers staff, and then there was the incident with him at the adult entertainment business showing off a weapon and scaring the dancers there. If OJ Mayo was suspended 2 years for 2 incidents that were 6 years apart, then it doesn't look good for Morant, who did all this in the span of like a year. You know, recently there was a poll online in the Grizzlies subreddit about how long users believe Morant will be suspended for, and a whopping 2,000 voters, which is nearly half of all the poll participants, believe that the Grizzlies superstar will be out for 1 full year. Man, guys, this could derail Morant's career quite significantly, and to be honest, the only thing saving Ja right now is his star power. Like, for example, when Gilbert Arenas was suspended for his weapon incident in Washington, he actually had a teammate who did the same thing. Javaris Crittenton was his name, but unlike Arenas, Javaris wasn't an all-star, and as a result, for the same actions, he never played in another single NBA game. Nike also went ahead and confirmed his star power. I mean, when the news of all this broke, they immediately removed his shoe line from the website. Like, overnight, people just couldn't buy Morant's shoes anymore. But then, about a week later, despite all the negative publicity surrounding Morant, Nike suddenly released Morant's latest signature shoe called Hunger, and guess what? It sold out within minutes. We all know the NBA is a business, and as of the moment, Morant is arguably the most marketable Gen Z hooper in the world, and that's where everything stands at the moment. The NBA both loves and hates him at the same time, so they're trying to find the balance of delivering a punishment and keeping the business stable. But anyway, onto the other point that's actually more serious, which was brought up by Stephen A. Smith, who said that according to his sources, people aren't just worried about Ja Morant returning to play basketball, that they're instead worried about his life. Honestly, I don't know what to make of that, but if that's the actual case, Morant needs help immediately. I mean, remember what happened and is still happening at the moment to Delonte West? He was once the starting point guard next to a prime LeBron James, but these days, the man is homeless and is wandering the streets looking unrecognizable. Now, Morant's probably not going to become homeless anytime soon, but he needs to really stop this downward spiral that he's in before it reaches the next level. I mean, who are these guys that are hanging around him destroying his career and life? From pointing a laser that was on top of a weapon at Pacers staff, to allowing him to bring a weapon into an adult entertainment business, to handing him a weapon when they were live on social media. Morant really needs to change the people that are surrounding him. Otherwise, Stephen A. Smith's sources may be right, and it's only a matter of time before these incidents increase in terms of intensity. Anyway, we're all waiting for the NBA's release of whatever punishment they conclude is fit for Morant, but I, for one, hope he turns his life around and returns to his superstar role in the NBA. I mean, I need the Grizzlies to get swept by the Warriors. Heck, I need Dylan Dynasty Brooks to somehow get reacquired by the Grizzlies too, because sweeping them without Brooks wouldn't be as sweet.